something to show you. We're getting ready for the Yom Kippur family service. And I brought a special book to show you. Who by Fire, Who by Water? No, not that one. Let's see. Rosh Hashanah Machzor? No, although that's a good one to have around these days. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Oh, boy. Yes, this is the Book of Life. Okay, it's not the Book of Life, but it is a Book of Life. It's a Book of Life that was given to me as a present. Right? 8 years of my life here. And look at that. It starts off with someone blowing the shofar. Seems appropriate. We're going to end Yom Kippur with someone blowing the shofar. But you know, if someone made a book of your life, what would it look like? Would it look like this? I don't know. If you wanted to write a book of your life, what would it look like? Well, on the high holidays, we talk about God having a book of our life. And in that book are all the things we've done over the past year and over the past years. And we're supposed to imagine that book on Yom Kippur and what it's filled with. And if it's filled with the things we want it to be filled with, right? Did we do the things we really wanted to do? Are we the people we really wanted to be? Is it filled with good deeds and close relationships and sharing love? One thing your book is definitely filled with, it's other people. Because the truth is, we have, as we'll talk about during the service, our books are filled with lots and lots of faces. Probably the faces that are right near with you, your family, and then all the people we interact with. And so as we turn to our family service for Yom Kippur, that's going to be the theme. All the ways that our lives are connected by our shared experiences, by our shared goals, by our shared values, and most important, our shared love. I hope you're with people you love right now, and I hope you've cleared a nice quiet space to enjoy the service. You'll hear Rabbi Dalton, you'll hear Cantor Goldberg, and maybe me even a couple of times creeping my way in there. And wish you a Gamar Chatima Tova, that we should all be sealed in a book for a good life this year.
A long, long time ago, the world had many large and fabulous creatures. One of those creatures was a gigantic yellow bird with dark red wings and a purple forehead. He was called the Ziz. The Ziz was so huge that when he spread out his wings, he blocked the sun as if he were a dark rain cloud. Every time he flew over a town, all the mothers would call to their children, "Come inside quickly before it rains." This made the big Ziz sad. He loved children and didn't want to spoil their playtime. So the Ziz started flying around at night, when no one would notice that he made the sky dark with his gigantic wings. That worked fine for a while. Then one night, the big Ziz flew too high and he bumped into a star. Sizzle, snap, bang! The star fell out of the sky and down to earth. It burned a big hole in the ground. The next morning, when the Ziz saw the big hole, he was worried. "What can I do to cover this hole?" he asked himself. He thought about it for a while and came up with an idea. He stretched out his huge wings and went back up into the sky. This time, he knocked down a cloud. Plop! The cloud was full of rain and it filled the big hole with water. Now the big hole was a lovely pond, perfect for swimming. All the children came running to the pond, screaming with delight. It was a hot, sunny day, and they had a wonderful time splashing and playing in the water. That mistake is all fixed. The Ziz smiled. One day, however, the Ziz made a mistake he could not fix. It was the week before Yom Kippur. He was flying along, not watching where he was going, and he flew smack into the tallest pine tree in the world. Boom! The tree fell over and knocked over another tree. That tree knocked down another tree, and that tree fell on the vegetable garden behind the synagogue. Smash, squash, oops. Oh no, the Z's covered his eyes with his big wings. Not the vegetable garden, it belongs to the children. The Z's uncovered his eyes to look at the damage. The tomatoes, the corn, the pumpkins, the beans, the gourds, the squash, all the vegetables the children had worked so hard to plant were smashed to bits. I can't knock down a cloud and fix this, the Z's cried. The Z's flew home and sat in his own garden to think. He had watched the children plant their vegetable garden. Every year they harvested the fruits to decorate their sukkah. What would the children do this year? The Z's spread out his big wings and flew off to have a chat with God. The Z's had a special place where he liked to talk to God. It was Mount Sinai. The Z's was so huge that when he stood on Mount Sinai, his purple feathered head reached right up into heaven. What have you done this time? God asked as soon as he saw the Z's. This was not the first time the Z's had come to Mount Sinai after making a mistake. I knocked over a big tree. It knocked over another tree. That tree smashed a vegetable garden. The children's garden? God questioned. Yes, the Z's admitted, hanging his head. That's a problem, God said. I can't knock down a cloud and make this better. No, you can't, God agreed. What should I do? I want you to do something for me, God said. Anything, the Z's promised. I want you to search the earth and bring back the hardest word. The hardest word? The Z's questioned. Yes, God answered. Now go. The Z's stretched his big wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains. He flew over trees. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching the whole day, the Z's stopped to rest at the edge of a forest. In a little house nearby, he heard a mother and child arguing. I don't want to go to bed, the little boy said. You need your rest, the mother said. I'm not tired, the little boy cried. Good night, the mother said firmly, closing the door. The Z's flew over valleys. He flew over seas. That's it, Z's flapped his wings. The hardest word. I found it. Z's flew as fast as he could to Mount Sinai. With great excitement, he put his bird feet down on the top and poked his purple feathered head up into heaven. I found it. I found the hardest word. What is it? God asked. It's good night. Every child hates that word. Z's did a dance right on top of Mount Sinai. He loved being right. Good night is a hard word for children, God agreed. I knew it. I knew it. Z's danced. But there is another word, even harder, God said. There is? Z's slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared. Go and find it. So the Z's spread out his mighty wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains. He flew over trees. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching all day, Z's stopped at a big feast on the grounds of a castle. He listened. With so many people talking, he felt sure someone would say the hardest word. I'm hungry, a little girl said to her mother. May I have some piscetti, please? The mother smiled. Oh, you want spaghetti. That's it, Z's realized. I've got it now. He flew over valleys. He flew over seas. He spread out his great big wings and flew back to Mount Sinai. He planted his bird feet on the mountaintop and poked his purple feathered head into heaven. I know the hardest word, he sang. What is it? God asked. It's spaghetti. Z's hopped up and down on one foot. Standing still was hard, especially when he was excited. Spaghetti is a hard word to say, God agreed. Didn't I tell you? Z's hopped some more. But there is another word even harder, God said. There is? Z's slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared. Go out and find it. The Z's stretched his big wings and went back out to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. The Z's searched for 3 more days. He brought back lots of words to Mount Sinai, words like rock, rhinoceros, ridiculous, and Rumpelstiltskin. Each time, God sent the Z's back out to find another word. By the evening of Yom Kippur, the Z's had brought over 100 words to Mount Sinai. God had not accepted any of them. The Z's was discouraged. He had tried and tried. He flew back to Mount Sinai to have one more discussion with God. What word did you bring this time? God asked. No word, the Z's said quietly. No word? God asked. No, the Z said sadly. I've come to say I'm sorry. I can't find the hardest word. You can't? God asked. No, the Z shook his head. I'm sorry. You're sorry? God asked. Yes, Z nodded his big purple head. I'm sorry. Good job, God said. You found the hardest word. I did? Now the Z was confused. Yes, God said. The hardest word is sorry. While all the words you brought me were hard, sorry is the hardest. I always say I'm sorry on Yom Kippur, the Z said. Well, you should say it other times too, God answered. Like when I smashed the garden, Z asked. That's right, God said. The Z thanked God and pulled his purple feathered head out of heaven. Then he spread out his great big wings and flew back to the children's garden. On the way, he stopped at his own garden and gathered a big basket of fruits and vegetables for the children. It was time to say the hardest word. When we sing Romamu, we are saying a few different verses from different psalms. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, celebrate Adonai our God, v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho, and turn and bow towards God's holy mountain. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, because Adonai our God is holy. When we are at services or praying at home, we pray facing Jerusalem, directing our hearts and thoughts east.
Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Veishtachavu lahar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Veishtachavu lahar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
Ashrei is Psalm 145, and it is also an acrostic. The first word of each line starts with a letter in the alphabet. This can make it easier to remember. Ashrei starts with happiness and ends with happiness. How glad we are to be together praying today. If you know the words in the melody, sing along at home.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yehalelucha Od Yehalelucha Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yehalelucha Od Yehalelucha Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yehalelucha Selah Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav Tehillah leDavid Aromimcha Elohai HaMelech Va'avarcha Shimcha le'olam va'ed B'chol yom avarcheka v'halala shimcha le'olam va'ed Gadol Adonai umhulal me'od v'ligdulato ein cheker Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha gvurotecha yagidu Hadar kevod hodecha v'divrei niflotecha asicha ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru ugdulatecha asaprena zecher rav tuvcha yabiu v'tzidkatcha yiranenu Chanun v'rachum Adonai erech apayim ugdol chased Tov Adonai lakol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha v'chasidecha yivarchucha Kivod malchutcha yomeru ugvuratecha yedaberu Lehodia livnei hadam gvurotav Uchvor hadar malchuto Malchutcha malchut kol olamim Umemshaltecha b'chol dor vador Somech Adonai l'chol hanofim V'zokef l'chol hakefufim Einei chol elecha yesaberu Ve'ata noten lahem et ochlam bi'ito Poteach et yadecha U'maspia l'chol chai ratzon Tzadik Adonai b'chol derachav V'chasid b'chol ma'asav Karov Adonai l'chol kora'av V'chol asher yikra'uhu ve'emet Ratzon yire'av ya'aseh Ve'et shavatam yishma v'yoshi'im Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav Ve'et kol harashayim yashmid Tehillat Adonai yedaber pihi Yivarech kol basar shem kodsho leolam va'ed Va'anachnu nevarech ya Me'ata ve'ad olam Hallelujah
Baruch Hu is the call to prayer. We say it in the morning and in the evening service before the Shema, and we also say it before each Aliyah, before we read Torah on Shabbat morning. The Baruch Hu is where we say, we're all here. We're all together in our minyan. The leader says, blessed is God, toward whom all prayer goes. We agree, and we reply, blessed is God, toward whom all prayer goes forever and ever.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Hai 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 hai
Yotzer Or is one of two blessings we say before the Shema in our morning service, and in it we thank God for the blessing of light, the first thing that God created in the creation story. We say, blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates all things.
Yararai rai rai rai, yararai rai rai rai, yararai rai 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 rai, yararai rai rai rai, yararai rai rai rai, yararai rai rai rai, yararai rai 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 rai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. מי כמוך האלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. Tehilot, Vatayam Yachar Kulam Hodu Vimlichu Ve'ameru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Ha'ed Anananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Hagid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Hagid Tehilatecha.
The next part of our service is the Amidah, our silent prayer. You can take this time on this most holy day, to compose your own prayer that you want to talk to God about. If you want, you can reflect on our theme, the Book of Lives, how we're all connected, and what that means to you. Who are the people who you feel yourself most closely connected with? Maybe your family, maybe your friends, maybe your school, your teachers. And what's that like? And what does it mean to be connected? To be in each other's stories? And you can reflect a little bit on the book you're going to write in the next year. And what are your relationships going to be like? What kind of friend do you want to be? What kind of family member, brother, sister, mother, father do you want to be? At the end of this holiday, we start with a big, open, blank book. It's our job to write it. How are you going to write yours? Think about that as we turn to our private prayers. We'll come back together in a couple of minutes.
Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
The section of Torah we are about to hear comes from the book of Leviticus. In it, we hear instructions about Yom Kippur and learn what to do. Yom Kippur is a day of rest, like Shabbat, and there are things that we are not allowed to do on this day. The priest will wear special clothing and go into the Holy of Holies, the holiest part of the sanctuary in the temple in Jerusalem, and will atone for all of the sins for all of the children of Israel.
Shabbat Shabbaton hi lachem, ve'initem et nafshotechem, chukat olam, v'chiper hakohen, asher yimshach oto, v'asher yimale et yado, lechahen tachat aviv, v'lavash et bigdei habad, bigdei hakodesh, וכיפר את מקדש הקודש ואת אוהל מועד ואת המזבח יכפר ועל הכהנים ועל כל עם הקהל יכפר והייתה זאת לכם לחוקת עולם לכפר על בני ישראל מכל חטאותם אחת בשנה ויעש כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה.
When we repeat the divine attributes, in Hebrew called the Shlosh Esrei Midot, we remind God and ourselves of who God is. God is patient and forgiving. God is loving and caring, even when we mess up. We remind ourselves of these things so that as we're remembering all of the things that we've done wrong this year, we are also remembering that we are cared for and we are loved and that we are capable of doing better and that God wants us to try again, not give up.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Vechanun, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed L'Alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha V'Chata'a V'Nahakeh.
The Asham New Prayer is where we recognize all of the things that we've done wrong, the ways that we've fallen short this past year. As we say each word, we put our hand into a fist and we touch it to our heart or we tap it gently against our chest to show that we're sorry. We remember the ways that we weren't kind, the ways that we missed the mark, where we weren't patient, where maybe we actually did start the fight. By saying this out loud, it helps us move forward and change to try and do better next time.
Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. On Yom Kippur, it's time to restart. We've made mistakes, we've done bad things, but this is what the new year brings. A chance to change, a chance to grow, with one first step, nice and slow. We've used bad words and hurt our friends, but these mistakes are not the end. We do tshuva, we learn to do good, we tap our hearts to remind us we should. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. On Yom Kippur, it's time to restart. Yashavnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Ay, 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 ay. Havinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker. Ay, 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 ay. Yatsnu Ra, Kizavnu, Latnu, Maradnu, Niatnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Tsararnu, Kishinu Oref. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Ta'inu, Titanu.
Many of you are familiar with the idea of Sefer HaChaim, that on these high holidays, God opens a big book, lays it out, and says, okay, these are all the good things that Jeffrey Arnowitz did this year, and here's all the bad things that Jeffrey Arnowitz did this year, and if the good things weigh out the bad things, then I will be written in the book of life in the year to come, the Sefer HaChaim. It's a great metaphor for helping us to do the work of Yom Kippur, to reflect on our behaviors over the last year and to point ourselves towards life and life creation as opposed to distraction and things that aren't really important. However, we also know that this is not really the way the world works. Right? God does not have a list and check it twice. It's not a matter of do enough mitzvot and nothing bad will ever happen to you. This is not how the world works. It would be wonderful if it were how the world works. But as useful a metaphor as this is to encourage our self-reflection, we also have to understand that a metaphor is still just a metaphor. Today we want to stretch this Sefer HaChaim metaphor a little bit farther. As we continue our theme of connection and the ways we are connected, we want to talk about the real Sefer HaChaim, which is not a listing of what good deeds you've done and what bad deeds you've done. The real Sefer HaChaim is a story of our lives that we write. We are the narrators of our story. How will we tell that story? Will we concentrate on the good things and the achievements? Will we concentrate on the stumbles we've made along the way? Ultimately, by telling our story, we create who we are. But even more important than that is to understand that it's not only my book of life, it's our book of life. Right? I, as your rabbi, am privileged to be a character in your book. I hope it's a positive character. I hope it's one that helps you find meaning and spirit and purpose, and that together we make our lives more beautiful. You all are characters in my book. And that is true for those of you watching this who are families. Parents are characters in their kids' books. Kids are characters in their parents' books. There is not one Sefer HaChaim. We are each writing Sifrei HaChaim, books of life, and we are involved in each other's books. We help each other tell the story. We help raise each other up. And that comes with a tremendous responsibility. As we explore this theme over the next few prayers of books of life, let's reflect on how we are characters in each other's books, the responsibilities we have to one another because we are part of each other's stories. And let's commit ourselves to making sure that not only our book is a good book for the year to come, but that all the people who we love and all the people who we meet, all the people who we have the power to influence and nurture and care for and learn from, that we all write beautiful books in the year to come as we write our books of life together.
זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וחורבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ניזכר וניכתב לפניך, אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים, לחיים טובים ולשלום.
Avinu Malkeinu is one of the big prayers of the High Holidays, and it puts two ideas of who God is next to each other. One, of God as a king, someone who's far away from us, and two, God as Father, someone who's close to us. For some of us, this prayer might feel a little bit strange. We might not have a dad, or we might live with another adult in our family, or we might have complicated feelings about our parents. This prayer is still for us. What the rabbis were doing here was trying to help us think of God as someone in our life who cares about us and who loves us, who wants to help us when we get scared or when we've done something wrong. Sometimes that's a dad, sometimes that's a mom, sometimes that's a teacher or an older cousin. In Avinu Malkeinu, we are reminding ourselves, and we're also reminding God, yes, you're our king, you're our ruler, you're strong and you're strict when we do something wrong, but don't forget, you also love us like a parent is supposed to love a child, and you forgive us when we try to make things right.
Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu v'Haneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu v'Haneinu, ki ein banu masim, aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu v'Haneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu v'Haneinu, ki ein banu masim, aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שבנות השמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום להשיב אותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
The theme of our Yom Kippur service this year has been the connection of writing our books together. Writing books is hard. I have a favorite author. His name is Neil Gaiman. Writes fantasy books, some amazing Sandman comic books. Very creative. And he wrote an essay about book writing. It's one of my favorite stories. What Gaiman says is that he can't count the number of times someone has come up to him and said, Neil, I have the greatest idea for a novel. How about this? I'll give you the idea, you write the book, and we'll split the profits. And what Neil Gaiman says is, he turns to these people and he says, buddy, what part of writing a book do you think is the hardest? Do you think it's hard to have an idea? Or do you think it's hard to sit down and turn it into 250 or 300 compelling and coherent pages? Let me tell you, it's the second part. You can keep your idea. Such a powerful message. Writing books, even writing the books of our lives, is not about having good ideas. It's not about having good intentions. We can sit here on Yom Kippur and we can say, in the year to come, I'm going to do better. In the year to come, I'm going to commit myself to giving more tzedakah, to doing more gimilut chasidim, doing more deeds of loving kindness. We can say, I'm going to pray more. I'm going to try and keep my spiritual side more prominent. I'm going to come to services. I'm going to try and keep Shabbat. I'm going to be a better friend, a better parent, a better lover, a better all those things, a better partner. Those are good ideas. But as the author, Neil Gaiman, says, good ideas are cheap. When it comes to writing our book, what is important is how we actually write it. This Yom Kippur, when it draws to a close, will give us a fresh page, a new journal, a new book to fill. The idea That's page 1. No one ever got an award for writing a good page 1. The trick is to keep thinking as we go on through the days and the weeks and the months ahead, to remember we are writing a book, and how I am filling these pages with my actions, with my interactions, with how I actually live each and every day. That's what's filling these pages. That's what's going to make this book a bestseller or a flop. And this book is our lives. This is the Sefer HaChaim. As we write this book, I pray, and I hope you'll pray with me, that we're able to fill the pages this year only with goodness, that we meet our challenges head on, that it's a book full of caring and compassion, that it's a book full of mitzvot, that it's a book full of valuing relationships and people and not materials and thrills. May your book be a beautiful book. May your book be a bestseller. May we all be written, and may we all write a beautiful Sefer HaChaim, a beautiful book of life this year. Tekiah Gedolah.